Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pandemic Reflections.
Thanks for tuning in as we look back at how the LaSallian community navigated the COVID-19 pandemic.
In today's episode, we're sharing stories and insights from our fellow LaSallian students. We'll talk about the challenges we faced, the resilience we showed, and the lessons we learned during those unprecedented times.
Even though the pandemic is behind us, its experiences and lessons still shape us. Today, we'll explore how different aspects of our lives were affected and how we adapted and grew stronger as a community.
We'll start by revisiting the origins and global impact of the pandemic and hear firsthand accounts of how Lasallians responded in those early days of lockdowns.
We'll also dive into the shift to online education, the mental health challenges we faced, and the creative solutions that kept our community connected.
But before we get to that, we're excited to introduce our guests today. Joining us are Alejandro Jose Morales,
Hello.
Jasmine Kiambao, and lastly,
Hello.
Tiffany Wang.
Hello.
I can't wait to hear your experiences. So, grab your headphones, settle in, and let's embark on this journey of reflection and growth together. Welcome to Pandemic Reflections.
For a quick overview of the pandemic, COVID 19 first appeared on a small scale in November 2019, with the first large cluster emerging in Wuhan, China in December 2019. The initial belief was that the virus jumped to humans at one of Wuhan's open air wet markets, which sell fresh produce and meat. However, as the virus spread, it became clear that human to human transmission was occurring, indicating that the virus had adapted into infect humans effectively.
So, now let's discuss the spread of COVID 19. As COVID 19 spread beyond China, it rapidly evolved into a global pandemic affecting countries worldwide. The virus transmitted from person to person, often through close contact, and its spread was accelerated by international travel and the interconnectedness of our modern societies. On March 11, 2020, recognizing the rapid spread and significant impact on global public health, the World Health Organization declared COVID 19 a pandemic.
Now, COVID 19 has resulted in millions of deaths and infections worldwide, overwhelming healthcare systems in many countries. Beyond the health toll, the pandemic has had profound economic repercussions, including job losses, business closures, and disruptions to supply chains. The global economy has experienced significant contraction, with recovery efforts ongoing. The pandemic has also had far reaching social impacts, including increased isolation, stress, and mental health issues among the population. It has underscored the social inequalities and highlighted the vulnerability of marginalized communities. Now, let's move on to the interview questions. Feel free to turn your mic on. Now, for the starting question, how did you initially react when the pandemic first started? And how did you adapt to the sudden changes in your daily life and studies?
For me, initially, the onset of the pandemic brought about feelings of uncertainty and anxiety due to the abrupt changes in daily routines and the shift to online learning. So, personally, the sudden transition required quick adaptation, which led to the need of establishing a structured daily schedule to balance academic responsibilities with personal well-being.
All right, moving on, how did you manage your mental health during the pandemic, especially with the isolation and uncertainty?
Managing my mental health during the pandemic involved incorporating self-care activities into daily routines to feel less isolated since we are all stuck in our homes. But for me, I think one thing that kept me sane is having my cat company. And also, I got into different types of hobbies like playing video games and also engaging in self-care activities such as exercising and just having some meditation and mindfulness, and also staying connected with my family and friends, though being virtual also played a crucial role in maintaining my emotional well-being.
All right, that's very nice. Now, what were some of the unexpected challenges you encountered that you didn't anticipate at the beginning of the pandemic?
At first, because it was really unexpected, right? So the difficulty of maintaining focus and motivation in a home environment, especially we were shifted to online learning. All of the possible distractions were around me, so I could not really focus well on my academics during the pandemic. But I tried my best to balance the academic workload and the household responsibilities through that pandemic time.
All right, thank you. Now, how did the shift to remote learning affect your academic performance and motivation? Now, maybe someone else could take this one.
Okay, I'll answer this question na lang. So for most people, it had a mixed impact on academic performances and motivation. While some fellow students found the flexibility of online classes beneficial, others struggled with the lack of parang structure and like the direct learning from professors, and motivation was like fluctuated due to the monotony of staying at home and the absence of a physical classroom environment, making it like essential to develop new strategies for time management and parang self-discipline. For me, I struggled at first with the newfound learning way, and however I found peace with the situation. Parang I found a way to cope with it, and I adjusted my academic habits to it, and developed new ones. Like I I allocated time for online homeworks. Like I eventually adjusted to it.
All right. So, were there any specific programs or initiatives by your school that help you cope with the challenges brought by the pandemic?
While I personally had no outside help from school at all, I did get help from my. I was lucky to have my family with me to keep me company, to accompany me with these challenges brought by the pandemic. So it's a really great help that they were there, and being at home made me realize their value a lot more actually.
Thanks for that. So, did you experience any technical issues or lack of resources for online learning? And how did you address these challenges?
With the shift to online, there were actually a lot of technical issues. You had to, if you had unstable internet connection, you couldn't participate as well in class. You also, and being a new environment, there's also difficult navigating through the online platforms that were given to us. And so to address these challenges, we often sought technical support from the schools, utilized outside Wi-Fi hotspots, and invested in whatever we needed, just so we can get the adaptable learning sufficiencies.
Looking back, what's one key lesson you learned during the pandemic that you think will stay with you forever?
One key lesson learned during the pandemic is the importance of adaptability and resilience in the face of unexpected challenges. This ability to quickly adjust to new situations and maintain a positive outlook despite hardship is a valuable skill that will continue to be, I think, relevant in any of my future endeavors.
Okay, nice answer. If you could give advice to your pre-pandemic self, what would it be?
Um, for me, an advice would be like to have an open mind to the change and parang have a more positive look towards the change and develop a strong time management um and and like taking care of my mental health. It would be beneficial to build a reliable support network with my friends and families and stay proactive in seeking help when needed.
So for you guys, how did the Lasallian core values of spirit of faith, zeal for service, and communion and mission help you navigate these challenges of the pandemic? Can you share specific examples of how these values were evident in your experiences and actions during that time?
Okay, for me, the Lasallian core values, like, it acted as a guide during the pandemic, and the spirit of faith fostered like hope, gave me a sense of hope, and it led me to persevere and and help students or me stay focused on my own goals. And zeal for service was evident in the community like initiatives, as many people volunteered to support vulnerable populations and participating in online tutoring for peers, which I benefited from. My friends tutored me during the pandemic. And communion in mission was reflected in collaborative efforts to maintain a sense of community and solidarity, even in a virtual environment. For example, organizing virtual study groups and participating in online faith based activities helped all of us reinforce these values and provide a sense of belonging and purpose.
All right, moving on. Let's discuss the less known aspects of the pandemic, such as the role of social inequality, the impact on vulnerable populations, and the long term psychological effects. Now, could anyone cite some examples where the Lasallian community has been involved in addressing issues such as access to education for marginalized groups?
Uh, Being the large community that LaSalle is, it is we are comprised of a lot of organizations and projects that focus in helping those who are in need of the help that they need. One project, for example, is the LaSallian Scare, which is a project under the advocacy program to create a culture of care in the university. It is an initiative that provides opportunities for members of the Lasalle community or family to extend their assistance to those who are in disadvantageous situation in the current pandemic.
All right, moving on. How do the pandemic's long term psychological effects highlight the importance of compassion and mental health support and reflect it to the Lasallian commitment to holistic education and service?
So, the COVID's long-term effects emphasize the need for compassion and mental health support. So, as Lasallians, we should be committed to holistic education and service. We should also prioritize emotional well-being alongside our academics. And this approach fosters empathy and community support, ensuring everyone will be able to receive the care that they need. And this can also reflect our dedication to nurturing individuals who are not only academically capable, but also resilient in facing challenges.
Thank you for the answer. Now, do you believe that there is social inequality, especially during the pandemic? What do you think is the best way to handle it?
Um, yes, I do think there was social inequality during that time, and it actually worsened during that time. As some people like they didn't have access to medical health care and food, as stores were closed, and the government didn't really like help much. And even in the educational sector, like some students in those times didn't have the access to the internet or like gadgets to help them with studying or their education. And for me, the best way to handle it is to have like a fair access to education, healthcare, like, and provide better job opportunities. Like, I think it's best to push for policies that will ensure everyone has a fair chance in living a decent life during that time.
On a related note, can anyone propose concrete steps that LaSallian community can take to address the issues identified?
Well, for me, I think is to implement mental health support programs to help students cope with stress and anxiety. Though in LaSalle, we also do have the OCCS that they often conduct webinars and counseling sessions for students so that we could maintain our mental health and our complete well-being.
Another thing that I think we can do is to advocate for equitable access to education resources to ensure all students have necessary tools for remote learning. Because without access to reliable internet, the devices, learning materials, many students will face significant disadvantages. And I think when we address this, create accessible, create, we make it more accessible. We make ensuring that we can bridge educational divide. We can enable students to reach their full potential without anything or hardware holding them back.
And I think like another thing is to like encourage creative learning experience that can turn into a small business like baking, cooking, or handicrafts, like branching out our like hobbies and what we're passionate about, like joining orgs or having more hobby like are catered to habits, so like people can find their own community and that community could have a chance to become something of like better value for the community.
Thank you very much, Jasmine, Tiffany, and Alejandro, for your wonderful insights. And thank you, Kai, for being my partnered host. Now, as we wrap up, it's clear that while the pandemic has ended, its lessons and challenges continue to impact us. It's important for our community to keep addressing these issues and supporting each other.
Thanks to my partner Jethro, and thanks to our guests for sharing their stories and insights. And thank you to our listeners for joining us on Pandemic Reflections.
Remember, we're all in this together, and together we'll keep growing and thriving. Until next time, stay safe and take care.